When Adidas first launched the Predator 20, one of the main complaints that so many people had, including myself, was that the laceless 20 Plus variation of the boot looked infinitely better and had so many extra little details that weren't found on the 20.1 version, which is still a top-end model, but by comparison, just looked a lot cheaper. The Launch Mutator Pack was followed up by what was more or less a blackout colorway. There were some silver details, and again, I would argue that the 20 Plus variation did look the most premium, but we're now on to what is the second major colorway release for the Predator series, the Tormentor Pack, and as you can see, the 20 Plus and the 20.1 don't really look that different anymore. So with that out of the way, we're going to take a closer look at both of these boots, the first of which is the $275 laceless version of the Predator 20 Plus, of course, in the new Tormentor Pack colorway, and the cheaper but still top-end Predator 20.1 low. There is also a mid-cut variation, both of which retail for $225. Obviously, there was tons of hype surrounding the release of the Predator 20, and most of the reviews that I made and that I saw were pretty overwhelmingly positive. Now that the boot has been out for a couple of months, the question is, was I a little bit too nice about how good the Predator 20 actually is? That's exactly what I want to talk about in today's video. We're also going to compare the laceless 20 Plus and the low-cut 20.1 to determine which version of this boot is going to be best for you. We'll also, of course, take a look at how both fit and feel on feet. So if you're interested in learning more, please stick around, watch the entire video. And if you're interested in either of these boots for yourself, you can click the little pop-up in the corner of the screen or the first link down below. That's going to take you to the review page on my website, where you'll find buy it now links with exclusive SR4U coupon codes to pick these up below their normal retail prices. As far as extras go, one is far more interesting than the other. The 20.1 low comes in a regular Adidas box with nothing inside, so we'll get rid of that and we'll show you the box that the 20 Plus comes in, which is gigantic. You can see features demon skin spikes that are kind of printed on in a very cartoony way. It has this cool Predator logo there on the front, and you open it up and it's kind of like what they used to do with the Predator 19 Plus and 18 Plus, where it's got this kind of internal ramp, and they do include a couple of extras, the first of which is a shoehorn, which Adidas includes with pretty much all of their laceless boots. And they also include a string bag, which is the typical mesh material that we see from Adidas. It is blue with blue strings and then has the white Predator logo and Adidas logos there on the front, nothing on the back. Obviously, it gets a string bag rating of 17 out of 23.1. Before we get into the more technical stuff, I just want to quickly go over this Tormentor Pack colorway, which of course is inspired by the 2002 Japan Blue Predator Mania, of which we also got to remake a beautiful pair of football boots. And honestly, I think the colorway translates really well onto the current generation Predator. Really big fan. So you have a combination of blue, white, and red. You will not find any of that same kind of streaking, almost flame camo type pattern that you had on the Mutator Pack. It's just solid blue all the way through with the red demon skin spikes. You will find on the laceless model there is some red worked into the primate here across the top of the foot. And then also on the 20 Plus variation, you are going to find a wearable finish on the sole plate, which is pretty much just the red paint on the heel. The blue in the forefoot is more so just sparkle within the plastic that I don't think is actually going to wear off. And then as far as the 20.1 is concerned, pretty much looks exactly the same. The main difference that you're going to find is that, of course, you still have the red in the heel and the blue in the forefoot, but it's just colored plastic rather than a wearable finish, which I would argue is actually better. As far as what the differences are between the 20 Plus and the 20.1, on paper, there are actually quite a few differences, but when you're actually playing in the boots, the overall feel and experience on offer from both of these, I don't actually think is that different. We'll start though with what is exactly the same, and that is the sole plate and stud pattern. It is, of course, a split sole design, a little bit different in terms of the finishes used, but ultimately it's the same material, the exact same stud pattern, a huge improvement over what they were doing previously with the Predator series, and honestly, pretty similar to what you're going to find across the board from the Adidas brand right now. Overall, nothing to complain about. Something else that's the same, at least it's called the same thing, are the demon skin rubber elements that aren't the same in that there is a varying amount on both boots. You can even see just from this angle how much more of these demon skin spikes you'll find on the 20 Plus variation over the 20.1. I would say that it's kind of overkill on the 20 Plus, if I'm being honest. There's a total, if I'm not mistaken, because I haven't actually written this down, of 416 of these demon skin spikes that are basically made out of this soft rubber material. So this isn't sharp for those that are wondering, and you can also see on the 20 Plus that the shape of the spikes is more like an actual spike, and they're slightly angled forward, where on the 20.1 you can see that the spikes themselves, they're still pointy and sharp, but they're pointed straight up and down, and they're actually more of a perfect diamond shape rather than kind of a true spike. And again, there's just less of them on the lateral side as well as on the medial side. But honestly, this is more than enough spikes. It's 256 or something like that. I don't think Adidas has ever actually put out an official number for the 20.1, but either way, the takeaway here is that the amount of added grip on the ball provided by these rubber demon spikes, demon skin spikes, is very, very significant, and honestly makes these different from any other football boot you can buy right now. Which leads us into the main question that I wanted to answer in this video, and that is, was the Predator 20 overhyped? And in my opinion, it wasn't. If we look back at football boot history, the ones that stand out over the rest are the ones that had something very special about them, a sensation, a feel, a performance characteristic that you could only get from that one boot. An OG Predator Mania, whatever specific version of the Mercurial is your favorite, something like the Nike Hypervenom Phantom 1. These are all football boots that are so highly regarded because they're the only boots that felt like that. And that's the vibe that I get right now with the Predator 20, whether it's the Plus or the 0.1 variation, is that you really have no alternative. And for me, that's what makes it so special. I've said this publicly on the channel a few times. The Predator 20.1 Low right now is my personal favorite football boot. And that's partially down to the fact that I've always been a big fan of the Power Boot series, the Predators before they went synthetic, the Nike T90 Laser line. This has some vibes that kind of relates back to those older boots. I don't want to say that it's truly like a classic Predator, because obviously it's not a leather upper, but the fit, the feel, the added grip on the ball, especially when shooting, is something that I really like in a pair of football boots, and nothing does that quite like these brand new Predators. As for the differences between these two boots, the upper is kind of a controversial one because it is listed as prime knit for the 20 Plus, but not prime knit for the 20.1, despite looking almost exactly the same. And honestly, that's the difference between them, is basically just the name. The feel of these two uppers is pretty much identical, and what needs to be noted here is that despite being listed as a knitted upper, this really doesn't have a knitted upper feel, in my opinion. It's more of a thin synthetic because they took a lot of the softness and padding out of what is a textile-based material. And the reason why they did that is because the main part of what creates the feel for the Predator are these demon skin elements. So they didn't want to have too much extra padding to take away from feel for the ball, or potentially take away from the significance of these rubber elements. And then again, with the 20.1, maybe it doesn't look quite as premium, maybe it doesn't feel quite as soft to the touch, but honestly, once the boots are on your feet, these two uppers feel pretty much identical. Another difference is, of course, the collar. The 20 Plus is only available in one variation, which is basically high cut with this unnecessarily tall collar that you don't notice when you're actually playing, so at least I'll say that much. And then, of course, the 20.1 that I have here is the low cut variation, but it's also available as a mid if you do prefer to have a collar, which once again does absolutely nothing. Basically, this is a personal preference thing, but if you are going for the 20 Plus, you pretty much have no option. Which brings us to what is by far the biggest difference between these two boots, and that is laces versus laceless. And again, this is kind of a personal preference thing. I think if you've worn laceless boots from Adidas in the past and really enjoyed them, you're probably not gonna have any issues with the 20 Plus, where basically what you have happening across the top of the foot in place of laces is some elasticated prime knit, which is honestly on the thinner side and doesn't provide a ton of tension. I feel like it should be a little bit tighter than it is, but again, that's kind of the laceless football boot thing. If you don't like your boots to be super secure and super tight, then I don't see you having any issues with this. As far as the lacing system on the 20.1 version is concerned, it's a different layout than what we had on previous laced Predator models since the return of the Predator, and actually provides really significant amounts of lockdown along with adjustability. I just think that the objective performance of the 20.1 because of the lacing system is significantly better. And then very quickly, I just wanted to show you guys the weight because it is something that a lot of people are curious about. Keep in mind, these are both the same size 9.5 US, We'll start with the 20 plus variation, which you can see weighs in at 8.65 ounces, the equivalent of 246 grams, which is not particularly lightweight for a top-end model, but that's obviously not what Adidas was going for here. And then, of course, the 20.1 variation, the low cut, which is going to be slightly lighter than the mid-cut version, of course. They weigh in at 8.35 ounces, the equivalent of 237 grams. So you're talking about a very minor weight difference between these two boots, not one that I necessarily think you're gonna notice on your feet. If anything, because of the added lockdown of the 20.1, it's just gonna feel like a lighter, more secure boot on your feet versus the laceless 20 plus. So here's a look at both versions of the Predator on feet, the laceless 20 plus version on my left foot and the low cut 20.1 variation on my right foot, sporting some spectacularly good looking red reflective SR4U replacement laces, which are a great way of changing up the style of your boots in a very inexpensive way. If you're interested in some for yourself, the website to go to is www.sr4ulaces.com. There'll be a link down below in the description. Either way, the main difference that you're going to notice between these two boots in terms of overall feel is going to be mainly the tightness and general lockdown because of that lacing system. The 20 plus, not to say that they don't feel super tight, but they just aren't super tight, mainly through the midfoot and especially through the heel. I just feel like my heel is constantly about to slip out in the 20 plus. Not to say that they're going to fall off of your feet, but if you're kind of a fan of having more lockdown and just a tighter, more secure feel from your football boots, you probably won't care for the 20 plus variation, where the 20.1 has really good lockdown, there's good structure to the upper, and again, the lacing system makes the world of difference, in my opinion, but again, it's a personal preference thing at the end of the day. Despite being listed as different materials for the uppers, they both feel pretty much identical, relatively thin, a little bit of firmness out of the box, but as you wear them in, it definitely softens up and becomes more flexible. I wouldn't say that this has that soft kind of sock-like sensation like the previous generation Predators had. This is, like I said, more along the lines of a thinner synthetic, but it still feels really nice on your feet. They're the exact same shape given that they're on the exact same sole plate base, and overall, they don't really feel that different. As far as width is concerned, they definitely have some decent width to them. It does have more of a classic Predator shape, kind of like the Mania, where it's a little bit more snug through the midfoot and heel, but then kind of widens out through the forefoot and toe box area. Again, you're gonna have more tightness with the 20.1 because of the laces versus the 20 plus, but as long as you don't have super wide feet, I think these will both fit most people. And as far as sizing is concerned, I'm wearing these both in my usual size 9.5 US, and the fit and the length is perfect. So if you're looking to order some for yourself, I would strongly recommend going true to size in order to achieve the best possible fit. Anyways, guys, that's it for this one. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, be sure to support it with a like. If you would like to see more comparisons on the channel, because I haven't done a lot of them lately, let me know what you want to see specifically down below in the comments. Again, if you're interested in either of these two boots for yourself, be sure to check out the links down below in the description. Those are going to take you to the review page on my website, where you'll find buy it now links with exclusive SR4U coupon codes to pick these up below their normal retail prices. If you have any questions, as always, leave them down below. If you're not subscribed to the channel already, make sure you hit that subscribe button along with the little bell notification so you get notified when the next new video goes live. You can find all my social media information linked down below in the description as well. Other than that, guys, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.